Welcome to Torah for Women Ministries. This is the Prepper Portions with Judith Garten. I am here to talk to you today about something called dry canning. Dry canning, yes or no? Well, I'm often told that I have a habit of being overly cautious when it comes to home canning and when it comes to food storage. In researching this particular topic, I came across this one quote. This is from preservingfoodathome.com, and their article titled Dry Canning Raw Vegetables is an Unsafe Practice. Now, this particular article deals with actually taking raw vegetables, placing them in canning jars, no liquid, and canning them. But I believe that this applies to all of our food preservation processes. Canning preservation of food is not a creative activity about how to produce the best quality only. Safety must come first. This is how I was taught to treat food storage and canning and home preservation and all the procedures that go into it. When it comes to feeding your family what you have put in storage, this should be your first thought as well. First and foremost, canning, preserving, and storing food isn't just good practice. It involves actual science. Because of this, I would like to address this fast-growing topic. In the last year or two, a trend has popped up called dry canning. I can honestly say that in 30 plus years of being involved in food storage and home preservation of foods, I have never heard this term until a friend asked me about it a few months ago. Dry canning is the term being used for the process when you take clean canning jars, fill them with dry goods, place lids and rings on them, and then place them in an oven for a period of time at a specific temperature. Now, some people do just put the dry goods in the jars, place the jars in the oven and heat them, and then when they come out, place the lids and rings. But the most of the videos and things that I have seen have had the lids and rings on them as they go into the oven. Now, the oven temperature, I have heard and read, ranges anywhere from 170 degrees to 250 degrees. Then the time for that, for processing, is 10 to 20 minutes. I have seen this process also referred to as heat canning, oven canning, and other various names. Please remember the process I described as you're looking through other videos and blogs. My first thought to you on this topic is to ask you a question. Have you watched the video we did discussing how temperature affects dry foods and food storage items? Have you remembered how it affects the storage times? And if not, you really ought to watch the video because in it we share a quote from Utah State University. Here it is. The best temperatures for storing are between 40 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit. For every 10.8 degrees in temperature rise over 60 degrees Fahrenheit, you decrease the shelf life of stored food by half. This information comes from their extension office. Their publications can be found at the link below this video. Now here's my thought. If you plan on storing a product for 30 years and you just go to 70.8 degrees, you've decreased the shelf storage life down to 15 years. How much does it decrease in these higher temperatures? Just taking the low end of oven canning, you're already 110 degrees above the top range for proper food storage. This exponentially decreases your storage time to numbers I can't even calculate. If you thought you were going to store foods for 5 to 30 years, you will not be able to use this method at all according to the standards set for food storage, safety, and preservation, especially of nutritional value. Many B vitamins degrade drastically at higher temperatures, sometimes decrease as much as 35%. This is not a method I would ever recommend for food storage. I will state that one more time. This is not a method I would ever recommend for food storage. And in fact, I would feel bold enough to say, do not dry oven can your foods like this at all. There are easier and much better and safer ways for you to provide for your family in times of crisis. This is not an option. Now, this isn't just our opinion, because this is becoming a common recommendation in videos and blogs all over the internet. It has been addressed by the University of Georgia. It has also been addressed by the National Center for Home Food Preservation, which is based out of the University of Georgia currently. It is in an article from April 2020 titled "Dry Canning Isn't Canning to Me." It is discussed, and the link will be below. They're not the only ones. The University of Wisconsin-Madison also, in June of 2020, addressed this in an article talking about what canning is and is not. And they also referenced this article from the University of Georgia. Both articles bring up additional reasons besides the one I did as to why this heated dry canning is a risk to your family. And I'm going to discuss a few of them just briefly. First, the big reason why people are doing this is to attempt to kill off bugs and bug eggs. Although heat may accomplish this, it will degrade the nutritional value of your food right off the bat. Then you place that food into your storage and other problems may arise that will degrade it even more. Rancidity. I have seen a number of people recommending the oven method for treating and then storing nuts. Nuts are high in fat compared to, for example, white rice. Some nuts have already been roasted, toasted, and heat treated, and you're adding an additional heat treatment to them as well. Certain methods of storing can increase the risk of botulism and in some cases also salmonella. Dry canning in the oven is one of the processes that concerns many experts. From the University of Wisconsin article, even dry foods contain moisture. Common foods like dry flour, dry beans, and even dried fruits can contain 11 to 30% moisture. Placing any food in a heating oven causes moisture to move or migrate towards the surface of the food where the moisture may evaporate. Moisture migration in dry foods can actually cause pockets of moisture to develop within a food or moisture to condense on the inside of the container. Once the container is sealed, these pockets of moisture could support the growth of mold, bacterial spores, think Clostridium botulinum, also known as botulism, and even some pathogens such as salmonella. At this point, both universities state there is no proven study done on this kind of processing that gives experts reason to believe it to be a healthy way for preserving and protecting your home food storage. Until and unless studies are done, there is enough risk presented to avoid this process at all costs. Your family's health comes first, and take my word for it, one of the side effects of something like salmonella and botulism is, bluntly, diarrhea. Diarrhea leads to dehydration. In a time of crisis, you do not want to deal with either of those situations. Keep your family safe. Keep your food storage safe. I hope this has been helpful. And for further reading, please see the 2 articles referenced. If you have evidence to the contrary, please feel free to post in the comments below any studies you have that have been done. I promise I will research what you send, and I will pass along all the valid information to the experts, those that I rely on for proper instruction. Blessings and shalom.